And so what we'll do is sometimes people show up late, so I'll just kind of let them in as they arrive.
Okay, great.
Uh, but I'm going to start letting people in now.
Well,
Hello, hello. How's it going, gentlemen? Welcome to the call. Thank you for being here. Um, we're gonna get started because it's 5, and there could be some other men joining a little bit late, and I'll just let them in as they arrive. But for the time being, I'd like to introduce our guest, and her name is there she is waving. Miriam Elyse, and she's a licensed acupuncturist, certified tantra and intimacy coach, and the founder of Pleasure as Medicine. I love the name of that. It's awesome. She is initiated in the Sri Vidya lineage. Is that how you pronounce it?
mhm, yeah.
The Sri Vidya lineage of Tantra, and has been practicing the healing arts since 2002. In her practice, she focuses on body-mind healing, sacred sexuality, radical honesty, and soul-level intimacy. It's funny because in the private membership, the Essential Man Tribe, we're reading a book called Radical Honesty right now. So it's cool
Mhm.
that that's showing up. Um, so thank you for being here. It's really great to have you. And I just want to see if there's anything else you want to add to that really brief introduction bio
Mhm.
around your background.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for inviting me into your inner circle of the men's work you do. I feel really honored, and it's something that I work mostly with women, women and couples, and their men come to me sometimes who feel, even though I advertise towards women, there's this connection where a lot of men are feeling disconnected from women and want to talk to somebody who offers women's work as a way to kind of find their way back in. And so recently a lot of my passion and my heart centeredness around this work has been um, understanding from my perspective, from my background of working with women, how we as the collective of women that are here on earth, how we can help men feel safe and help men understand how to approach us where we're at, and just the value in that, in bringing men and women
Mm,
together and in teaching each other the languages of the other so that we can connect better.
mm,
That's all I'll say about that.
that's great. I think we need more of that, you know, considering how many millions of years are we've been cohabitating on the earth, and we're still figuring these things out, you know. And I think there's always new contexts that we're exploring our relationships and how to relate in different ways. So I think this conversation is particularly relevant today, in particular with the last few years of the Me Too movement, and you know, women sort of calling men forward to a higher level of being and relating.
Mhm.
Yeah, cool. Well, I love to just drop in a little knowledge for the men that are unfamiliar with the actual meaning of tantra and what that's about. You know, maybe a little bit about the lineage that you're teaching from, and you know how we can apply that to our lives in like a practical way.
That's a good question. A lot of people describe tantra differently. So I'm not going to be on here saying this is what tantra is, because even though it started as one thing in India thousands of years ago, the way that it's taught and approached today is very different depending on who you talk to. So my way of working with Tantra and the way that has really healed me and connected me to my sensuality and my sexuality in a way that it's actually a part of my life, a part of my wholeness, not just something I kind of save for the bedroom when the lights are off between the sheets. It's my sensuality, my sexuality is a part of my expression. It's a part of um, my ability to communicate my value to the world. And like a lot of people think a woman's value might be already related to sexuality or surface level things, right? Like appearance. But it's on a deeper level than that. Tantra works with the primal energy of Kundalini, which is a big yoga word. Kundalini, which is basically everybody has this energy inside of them. It's the same energy that gets activated if there's an emergency and a car rolls on top of somebody and you have to lift the car off you. You have to lift the car off that person. It's the same energy that gets activated. Your Kundalini energy. So the kind of superhuman force that lives inside of all of our bodies. And I call it superhuman because normally if you were just trying to lift a car, you wouldn't be able to. But when something is kicked into gear, it's that fight or flight activates you, wakes you up, then where does that energy come from? Well, Tantra would say it comes from, it's stored in the base of your spine right near your sex organs. And that power is something that when you wake it up, it can actually activate you more like that on a daily basis. And what that looks like is more clear thoughts, more open heart in relationship, more connected to your willpower and your goals and your ability to follow through with what you say you're going to do. So, my approach to Tantra is really using um, sexual energy, and even before that, this primal power, using that to wake up and activate your whole life. And pleasure is a very healing quality. It's a very healing energy that when we're connected to it in a positive, healthy way, it can totally help our mental, like neuroses, people who have anxiety and depression. They learn how to access pleasure and this primal power in a healthy way and breathe it through their bodies. It can completely change your relationship to negative thoughts and looping patterns, which are the things that tend to harm relationships, harm businesses, stop your potential from being fully fulfilled. And so I think I would describe Tantra as this way to fulfill your highest potential through accessing the energies that are hidden in sexual primal energy.
Love that. Yeah. I, I never really looked at it in such a way as that, you know, Kundalini being this kind of primal energy. That's, I mean, it totally makes sense. Um, one thing that I like to do with the men in the tribe is I try to offer practical things, especially when we get into like these kind of more esoteric teachings. It's hard to really grasp it without having an experience of it, And I'm wondering if you might be open to leading a short practice that either the men that are here on the call or that are watching the recording could get a little bit of an experience of that.
Sure, I'd be happy to. And it's always like this. The amount that you're able to feel really does is reflect a reflection of um, how sensitive you are to energy. How much you've done yoga or meditation before can really play into how much you're actually able to feel in the moment. But I suggest that you just give it a try, no matter where you're at. A lot of people have a resistance to even the word energy. So when I say energy, just think of it as something that you can feel but can't see, right? So, for example, sexual arousal, we can feel it, we can't see it. Well, maybe in some ways you can see signs of it, right? But you can't directly see it. So, relating to energy like that, let's place the right hand over the heart and the left hand over your lower abdomen or your genitals, whichever you like. And breathing into your left hand, so breathing into your sex organs through your left hand and just connecting to that power that lives down there. So, really taking a moment to drop in, slow down, close your eyes, slow down your breath, becoming consciously aware of your breath, slowly drawing air in. And as you breathe in, imagine that you are breathing directly into your sex organs. And when you breathe out, imagine that you're breathing out directly through the heart. So on the inhale, activating the sex organs. So even imagining that there's arousal there, imagining there's energy there that you're drawing in as you inhale, lighting that area up, letting it be vibrant and full. And as you exhale, imagine this energy is moving up from the sex organs and through the heart, and you're projecting that outwards into the world through your heart. So every time you inhale, circulating through the sex organs and then upward through the heart as you exhale. In this practice, you can go on with this practice for a long time. The longer you do it, the more you tend to feel, the more you tend to wake up this natural arousal that's always living inside of us. And it's really, really helpful for both men and women to connect their heart with their sexuality. So we're taking in energy through our sexuality, allowing it to be vibrant and alive and full of electricity. And then we're communicating that back through our hearts into the world. You do this while eye gazing with your partner, while looking into the eyes of someone you love. It's a really incredible way to connect your sex with your heart, with the other person, balancing yourself. So, even imagining that your partner is sitting in front of you or a partner. Take 3 more breaths like this, really connecting to yourself, having compassion for your body, for your sexuality, for your own heart. And at the end of that third breath, you can just gently open your eyes and come back to presence with us here.
Hmm. Thank you. That was really nice.
Yeah, I felt like I wanted to go on for a lot longer. And when I do that with clients, it's amazing how just touching those two places at the same time, especially when I work with men, having them hold these two places at the same time is like, wow, it's actually okay. I can feel safe. I'm not trying to perform. I can feel both the power and erotic charge of my sexuality and the safety and tenderness of my heart, and that's okay, right? On a really
Yeah.
simple, fundamental level.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the whole performance thing for a lot of men, that's largely how we're conditioned to
Yeah.
relate sexually. And you know, even after having done this work for a long time now, I still need to uh, create that connection between my genitals and my heart. When
Hmm.
it's very easy to fall back into the habit of performance and goal oriented sex as a man.
Hmm.
And that can look different ways. I know on our Instagram live, talked a little bit about, even in the sort of conscious sexuality realm, there can be a lot of pressure for men to perform in different ways. I think modern men are a lot more aware than our predecessors about the idea of pleasing a woman, and that it often takes more time for a woman to come to orgasm. But even that, I think, can be a block for a lot of guys in terms of needing to please the woman that he's with. And I'm curious if you have anything to share on that, in terms of kind of relieving that anxiety that might come up for a man that is really well intentioned, but can kind of get stuck in that performance mentality.
Yeah, definitely. Well, one thing is it's I almost want to offer this to you and to all the men and the people watching as a relief to you guys, because women naturally, our natural way of relating to sexuality isn't goal oriented. We are conditioned, we as women are conditioned to push for orgasm, but really truly in our nature, women are way more sensually oriented. So whether or not a man is even hard, he can give a woman so much pleasure by touching any square inch of her skin. And that's something that I think is forgotten a lot in the sexual experience between men and women, is that it becomes very orgasm centric. And in order for orgasm to happen, I mean, of course, there's fingers and other objects, but it requires, penetration and maintaining an erection and the responsibility that a man has, while he's experiencing his pleasure, to also be aware and sensitive to the woman's pleasure, making sure that she's okay, that she likes it, that it's not too much, is it enough, this and that. And to just, I think men and women need this healing, to recognize how much more is available in the more subtle realms, for men and women. But I think beginning with the woman, because women can have a lot to teach men about sensuality, just like men may have a lot to teach women about being goal oriented. The natural feminine wants to surrender and wants to experience pleasure for the sake of pleasure. And when your lovemaking becomes more like that, the erection might come and go. Even the woman's wetness or readiness for penetration might come and go. But what is alive is connection, right? So if there's any pressure on a man, men being, archetypally and energetically the ones to kind of hold the container, to kind of send a direction and directive about how this is going to go, right? The thing that a man can focus on is he allowing the woman to experience as much surrender to sensation as possible. Now, what can do that? What can allow for that to happen? One thing is, him making sure that she feels safe, right? And making sure that she's comfortable on the most basic level. Temperature of the room. Is he too heavy on top of her? There's so many different things that can be a part of comfort, that if a man's just orgasm driven, he's going to forget about these other things.
Yeah.
And those other things can be so important to allowing a woman to really feel safe and to trust you and to surrender.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of those things, because I think, a lot of men are kind of nuts and bolts. So like what are some go-to things to look out for in terms of creating that safe space for a woman?
Hmm. That's a great question. And I know for myself, being a woman and a woman who's really like, I'm really sensitive to energy. And I've, been doing yoga since I was like 15, and like cultivated this ability to feel my own body and to feel somebody else's body, on an energetic level. It can be so easy for me to stop feeling safe. It can be a really, the tiniest thing. If I notice that my partner's in his head, right? If I can sense that he's in his head, or he's trying to either maintain his erection or stop himself from orgasming, I might feel this disconnection and take it personally,
Mhm.
right? So maintaining connection is actually more important than performance. Um, if there's obviously anything sensation related, um, you know, so sometimes if a woman's on the bottom and the ground it's like on the floor in an uncomfortable position, or an uncomfortable location, um I've had the experience where I've been like, really, are you not aware that you're so heavy on top of me? And like that kind of thing, just awareness of comfort. Um and that, especially in a longer term relationship where it's not as hot and heavy, it's not as much about that fiery passion. It's about, are you comfortable? Do you
Mhm.
want to open alongside with me? Do you feel connected to me? And that's just like the base level. And then everything else can come from that. Women's desire tends to open more slowly than a man's. And this is, of course, generally speaking, but for a man, more often than not, what he needs to be stimulated might just be to be physically touched on his genitals. That might actually be the thing that arouses him. For women, sometimes we need a lot. That won't do anything for us if we don't feel connected. We might feel like that might feel annoying or painful even if we're not feeling like our heart is open. Um, for me, like my skin is so sensitive all over my body. It's sometimes like I don't even want my genitals to be touched. I want to be lightly tickled on my neck and my back and my stomach and my arms. And that is what's going to open me up. Sometimes I want that, and I actually don't even want to be lightly touched. And that experience of arousal in my whole body is so fulfilling to me. It doesn't necessarily need to lead to sex. So women just have a really different way of relating to sexuality and sensuality. And I want to help guys understand things that a woman might not even help in terms of turn her on, what might um, make her, and this is kind of what we were talking about. This is what we were talking about, no into a yes in terms of desire, and how there can be sometimes in a close relationship that's okay, but because of the whole Me Too movement, and not because of that, but alongside that, um, it can be challenging to say that I want to turn my woman's no into a yes. And there's a way to do that that is actually really safe, and there's a way to do that that's unsafe, right?
Mhm. Can we create some distinguishment there?
Sure, sure. Sure. So part of what the reason why we got into this part of the conversation is part of what I wanted to say was, um, I might not think that I want sex. My mind can be convinced that I'm not in the mood. And if my partner, who I have a trusting relationship with, that's huge part of it. Um, if he continues to just lightly touch me, just giving sensation and pleasure to me, and if I can tell that he's not trying to turn me on, because if I can sense my partner really wants sex and he's doing it just so he can get to the jackpot, then my mind's gonna shut it off. I'm like, but if I feel like he's just giving to me and just wanting me to experience sensuality, my body will surrender and open. And usually, more often than not, my sexuality will respond and I'll say, oh, look at that. I
Mhm.
guess I did want it. So that's one powerful way to turn a no into a yes, or at least a no into a experience of connection,
Mhm.
which oftentimes men say that they want sex, and what they say they actually want is they want to feel connected. But sex is a way that maybe you know how to receive and experience that connection. So finding other ways to experience connection with your partner where she's responding favorably in a sensual way to your touch can can be really fulfilling for men in terms of getting that connection they desire.
Yeah, I love that. And I just really want to emphasize the point of how often how sensitive women are to not just like you described creating safety by the physical environment, but also the environment of our mind or our consciousness, right? So a man that's in his head, that's lacking presence, or even has an agenda, right? He's like trying to make something happen, trying to please his woman. Quite often a woman will feel that, and you know, there's a way of relating that I think it takes a while for men to find this, where it is more about presence and connection and less about attaching to outcomes, you know, trying to um, have some certainty around what's actually going to happen. Um, and I think what you're saying is that there's an opportunity for men to have a different experience of sexuality, even themselves, that could even be more potent than just the, you know, the kind of penetrative act of sex.
Right.
Um, and it's, you know, I do want to speak a little bit to pornography and how, if you're a man that uses pornography, it kind of wires your brain and your body to, you know, have this very quick release type of experience that is based on fantasy. It's not based on reality. And I think men don't recognize how, when we create those kind of neural pathways, uh, how it can ruin the possibility for real intimacy in our relationships, because we're expecting it to look like it does on, you know, Pornhub or whatever. And so this to me, this type of work is a way to rewire our
Mhm.
habits around sex. And if you've been using the habit of pornography, or, you know, quick release through masturbation, it's kind of wired into your body mind, and it's gonna take time to rewire, and to have to be able to open to new experiences that are more subtle.
Yeah, very true, very true.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you were talking, you mentioned about how, I love what you said, how men could actually experience their own sexuality in a more fulfilling way by slowing down and listening to a woman's pace and her desires.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that is so true. And I know that when a man is comfortable with surrendering, whether that's surrendering his erection, you know, letting it go down in service of something else, if it's, you know, connecting more deeply with his partner, and the fear of, oh no, I'm not going to be able to perform, surrendering that and just letting yourself be present, um, is so healing to a man's acceptance of himself. And people think masculinity is this one thing, this, like, you have this idea of what masculinity is. Masculinity is so much more of a broad spectrum than what we're told it is. And there's this empowered masculine version of, like in tantric scripture, Shiva, the, you know, the god in tantric um, philosophy and religion, is kind of the removed observer. He's just pure consciousness, the ability to just hold whatever emotions, whatever, you know, wild desires, and the play of life. Basically the ultimate masculine is just kind of holding this container for life to happen. And when we step back and view masculinity like that, it's not about being aggressive. It's not about being just doing this one thing. It's like, can I actually hold all that is, including all that is within myself? A woman can help lead a man towards this part of himself, just as a man can help lead a woman towards a more fulfilled aspect of herself. Like, even if I say, for example, I don't want an orgasm tonight, um, if my man is able to be with me and, you know, give me that sensuality and that comfort and that pleasure in places other than my sex organs, and then sex ends up happening and I end up having an amazing orgasm, I feel so much better than I did before when I was saying that I didn't want it. And orgasms on a hormonal and chemical level are so healthy for us, right? For women, they balance our hormones out. They balance our energies in our body. And same thing with men. Obviously, you could get into semen retention and how much energy release takes, and then being healthy in terms of how often you choose to release that semen. I'm sure people in your tribe are aware of semen retention, are they?
Um, I mean, I haven't touched on it directly. I'm sure many of them are aware of it, and I think it's a good thing to bring into the conversation here because, yeah, that's really it's a vital part of our embodied energy,
Yeah,
and yeah.
vitality, literally. Yeah, so just touching on that, it is said that when a woman menstruates, the amount of energy that she loses from producing an egg, menstruating, having that whole process, how kind of drained she is energetically is similar to how a man can be drained after ejaculating. It takes so much energy for your body to build sperm. So much of your vital resources go towards rebuilding sperm. And if you've ever practiced with a semen retention, not ejaculating for a few days, a week, a month, a few months, depending on your age and depending on how often you're used to ejaculating, I've heard a lot of men say that the results are incredible. They feel so much more clear. They have more energy, more focus, more driven, all this stuff. And it can really change your relationship to pornography and to sexuality in general. Um, so that's one aspect of it. But other than that, the energetic aspect of orgasms are very healthy, right? It like cleanses the nervous system. It cleanses us. And obviously everything in moderation. There's a way to do it that actually cultivates and replenishes this energy, and there's a way to do it that drains this energy. And every individual is different, and also men and women are really different in terms of um, how orgasm either feeds them or drains them.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's another reason to pay attention, right? Notice how you feel after you ejaculate, and notice that what that does to your system. Notice what it does to even to the connection with the other person, because that all those things are information for really creating more of the experiences that we want to be having sexually or even just in our own personal journey of self-exploration. So, I think that's really key. Again, coming out of just habitual automated ways of responding to sex and starting to notice, starting to become that observer, that Shiva, and bringing, we can bring that quality. I want to touch on the power of this a little bit, because what I think I didn't used to get before I started doing this kind of work was how that our consciousness and our presence can actually affect the sexual act, in such a profound way that's kind of mind-blowing. Um, and it's been my experience. I worked with a teacher for a few years that did a lot of work around intimacy, John Wineland, and we did some co-ed type of practices with women, and it's amazing without even making any physical contact, the the amount of energy we can run through our bodies when we're in kind of a polarized moment with a partner that is pretty ecstatic in and of itself without even touching. And you know I remember being in a room with probably about 100 couples, 100 people paired up, and I mean, there were literally women that sounded like they were having orgasms without penetration, without there's maybe a little bit of contact, but mostly it was just breath and connection. And that's the power of this work. And one thing that really shifted for me when I started to kind of integrate this into my relationships was this experience of where I placed my awareness. We can, just like that practice we did earlier, we had a sense of having our awareness on our sex organ and our awareness on our heart. So just that in itself is a training of focusing our awareness in a particular space. And so, in partnership, what I've started to bring into my relationship is learning that I could put my awareness on my partner. I could put it on her heart. And just doing something as simple as that, like imagining myself just as consciousness itself, wrapped around my partner, holding her. We talked about safety earlier. We can actually give her an experience of being held by consciousness itself, just by placing our awareness around her. And the power of just seeing how she responds to that. I don't even need to like say I'm doing anything, but just bringing that while we're connecting. I'll find that she'll start feeling more pleasure in her body. She'll start breathing deeper. um, so it's pretty profound once you start playing with this stuff, and what is seemingly subtle really really has a powerful impact. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to drop that in there, because it's one thing to just talk about what can, like the details of all the things that can happen. I think it's really important to like give a sense of the experiential and what's possible.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that you shared that, and it makes me want to share something, if I may.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I was teaching workshops in LA for 4 years, every month. I think almost every single month, the first Sunday of the month, tantra workshops, and most of them were co-ed. And I would have strangers, I would invite strangers to sit in yab yum with each other, which is basically where one partner is cross-legged and the other partner is kind of cross-legged over, wrapping their legs around them. There's varying degrees of closeness where you can both have your butts on the ground, you can sit cross-legged and look into each other's eyes. There's, safe safe ways of doing this where that you're not confronting yourself too much by sitting in the lap of a stranger. But what I found through this practice is I remember people just crying, weeping at the end of 10 minutes, staring into the eyes of a stranger, or feeling hesitation at first, and then as the practice went on, they're deciding to get closer and closer. They're deciding they feel more and more safe. Usually it's the woman who hesitates and the man who's open, saying, okay, whenever, if you're ready to get closer, I'm available for that. I'm not pulling you in. I'm not making you feel bad for not wanting to sit in my lap. And what I would see is the woman would feel safe with him. She'd want to get closer and closer and closer. And this, being allowed, as a woman, being allowed to surrender, being allowed to feel my emotions, being allowed to have an experience that might be seen as crazy if you're not the one having the experience, and to just be held in that while I'm breathing, while I'm sobbing, while I'm laughing, while I'm orgasming, while I'm, all the vast experiences that can come through our bodies when we really let go and just connect to breath, and especially the power of connecting to breath with somebody else. That is so healing. Even if these people never speak again, that was healing for each of their relationships from that moment forward. Knowing that it's possible to sit with a man and to truly be held and have an embodied experience of what that feels like, whether or not if it's your partner or not, is so healing. And for a man, being trusted having a woman choose to sit with him, choose to sit in his lap, feeling like he's able to hold all of her emotions, all of her expression, and to just feel like he can hold that is so healing for the need of a man to feel like useful and to feel safe and to feel like the hero archetype is so beneficial for a man's confidence. Um, so I learned a lot from teaching people and from watching strangers get really vulnerable with each other.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you touched on just the piece around what a gift it is for men to feel like the woman that they're with really trusts them, that they can, trust that they're able to hold them, trust
Mm,
that, trust their leadership even. And I think a lot of men do have that yearning to to be trustable. And I think it's a real soul level yearning. Like I think there's a part within every man that wants to be of service, that wants um, to to be a gift to the feminine. And when we actually see that reflected back, I think it really does ripple out. It's like we when we get these experiences. That's why, if men listening, if you ever have a chance to go to a co-ed workshop like this, it will affect your confidence in terms of relating with women, because I think a lot of men have not had enough experiences in real time where we could go to that level of depth and um, know that, you know all the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves are not necessarily true, but to actually, embody certain qualities and then have it reflected back, like how valuable that impact is on a woman is just like life transforming.
mhm, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. um yeah, well, we got a few men on the call, and at a certain point, I want to transition to opening it up for questions. Men that have had some kind of curiosity arise since we've been chatting. Something, what I think is the most valuable, rather than asking like philosophical questions, is like really bringing something from your personal life, if you're comfortable with that. I know it can be vulnerable, but what I found in these men's groups is the more open we can be about our own process, it actually, we all learn from it. We're all served by it. So I want to encourage you guys to bring something that feels maybe a little bit edgy. Um, you feel ready for that, Miriam? You want to jump in, or is there anything
Yeah.
else you want to touch on before we open it up in that way?
Mm. I feel ready for that, and I think the thing that's just coming to the surface right now is um I part of what I'm really inspired by right now is, like I said earlier, helping men feel safe to connect with women on the level that women are asking them to connect with them from. And I think this whole concept of men needing to be safe is like a new thing for people. People are like, what?
Yeah,
Men are just dudes and they're just this and that. And it's like a lot of some, maybe some are, but a lot aren't, just macho assholes. And and when a woman's asking a man to look into her eyes and to feel with her and to be strong enough to hold her emotion, that is so vulnerable. It is so vulnerable and so confronting with a lot of the stories that men have been taught that what they shouldn't be. And so doing this work to really connect to women in a deeper way is a lot about doing your own work, and it's a lot about um, being willing to be uncomfortable and be willing to open up areas in your life, and emotions that live in your body that you may have not touched on before. And it's vulnerable work, and it's, I think, why things like men's groups like what you're leading here, Soma, are so important for men to have a place talk about this and to process some of their experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think in particular, what I know of a lot of men is that it's vulnerable to open our hearts. It's vulnerable to really, it's very easy for men to just fuck from their cock, but to bring their heart into the mix and really risk opening is the edge that a lot of men need to face in relationship. And um, and you know depending on our personal history, whether it can, we've had a broken heart from a past relationship or childhood, um, the that's often what we're carrying into the relationship. And we can really only heal those wounds by taking that risk and trusting that it's safe, or could be safe, to open our hearts. And it is a risk because they could get broken again. But I think the gift of that is we get to access more of ourselves. We get all that energy of the heart in the mix, which carries over into everything that we do in life.
Yeah.
um, well, on that note, we got a question. Cool, brother. I don't see your name, so if you could just, oh, there you go, Jacob. Okay. Yeah.
Hey, sorry guys. Been on the video's been off because I've been at work. I'm actually still at work right now on call as a paramedic in Dallas. But I have a quick question. Um, how much of this work um, has to be done within the crucible of a relationship, and how much of it should be done before entering the bounds of a relationship? Because I've been kind of purposefully withholding myself from relationship just purely because I don't feel capable of like holding the holding my center, holding the space for the kind of quality of woman that I'm trying to call in. So I'm just curious, am I shooting myself in the foot by withholding from relationship?
Hmm. That's a great question. Love
It
that.
is a great question.
Yeah.
Who's going to answer that question?
Well, maybe we could both take a stab at it. You want to go first?
Sure, sure. Jacob, that's a wonderful question. And when I work with people with Tantra, the first thing that I always say is that Tantra is best started alone. It's best to begin to learn how to move your energy when you're alone with yourself, because it is so much harder when there's another person there with you. It's so much more distracting. You have all your programming running. When you're able to turn self-pleasure into, or masturbation into, a self-pleasure practice, it's a totally different game, right? So masturbation to porn is over here on this far end of the spectrum. Self-pleasure as a practice that you're going into consciously as if you were meditating, is on the other end of the spectrum. And so learning to run your energy differently. For example, the meditation that I did in the beginning, placing one hand on your heart, one hand on your sex organs, learning to run your energy through your heart so that you're not kind of being informed by the unconscious energy of your sexual desire. In terms of the chakra system in Tantra, where kind of different qualities of consciousness live in our body, the unconscious is below the waist. So everything below the waist is relating to unconscious urges, fight or flight response, our primal kind of animalistic um, behaviors and thoughts and actions. And to make this unconscious energy conscious by literally imagining that you're sucking your sexual arousal up into your heart and expressing yourself through your heart when you're communicating with somebody. Things like that, that at first are like, wait, what? Do what? But if you practice it, if you actually imagine it, it takes imagining it first. It starts in the mind as an idea, and you practice doing this. You're going to notice that you're slowly able to start moving your sexual energy around to different parts in your body. Um, I would say I personally am an advocate against porn. I don't want to shame anybody here who uses porn at all, because shame is worse than porn is. But I would say that if you're using pornography, try stopping and waiting until your body is naturally aroused enough to want to touch yourself and to want to have a release. This might result in frustrations, it might result in a lot of things, but learning to train your sensual energy to slow down and to enjoy the touch all over your body, not just your sex organs, that's going to really clarify the way that you relate to a woman on an intimate level, emotionally, sexually, and when you're talking to her, the types of thoughts that you're having and the way that you're aware of who this person is, how is she responding to my energy, is going to take on a different quality the more aware of yourself you are.
That's great. Yeah, I'll just throw in a couple things.
Mm.
I think the conscious self-pleasuring is a great way to do that rewiring that I spoke of earlier. And one of my teachers many years ago that I worked with in this realm, I think we took on a practice of like 30 days. Might not have been 30 days, but I think 30 days is a good commitment to kind of create a new experience. And it was basically like doing a self-pleasure practice for 30 minutes, rather than the typical 2, 3, 5 minute, but extending it out for 30 minutes and doing it without any kind of fantasy, but just being fully in the experience of what's happening in the body. And that's a great place to start. And I think breath is really a key part of moving energy and generating energy. So if you have any kind of breath work practice, it's gonna train your awareness to start to learn how to work with energy in the body. And like I said earlier, we can, I think one of the superpowers we can have as men is our capacity to focus. And when we intentionally focus our energy or our attention somewhere, like basically energy follows awareness. So where your awareness is, energy will flow there. So just that simple thing we did earlier of placing the hand on the heart, right? Just that little bit of contact there is going to help direct your awareness, because you're having a feeling sensation in that part of your body. So just, you can even do it right now. Just that little contact is there to help direct your awareness. And I'm calling this a superpower because if we learn how to direct our awareness in our own body, we basically learn how to direct our awareness everywhere else in our life. And I think especially in this hyper distracted world that we live in, it's very easy to have our awareness be bled out amongst many things, and we lose that potency the more distracted we are in our lives. So you're not just training your sexuality here, you're training your ability to focus and to move energy with intention. So I wholeheartedly believe that this type of practice is really necessary to cultivate on your own, because with a woman in front of you, there's way more energy in the room, and it's way easier to kind of lose consciousness if you're not grounded in your capacity to stay connected to this experience within yourself. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to ask related to that? Do you feel like we've answered your questions? And I muted you, by the way.
Yeah. No, that's pretty spot on. That's great. I appreciate both perspectives, and it was pretty clear that a lot of this kind of starts on my own. I'm just kind of like at the place where, God, when am I gonna get it so I can be ready?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I just want to say I really respect that you're holding out and you're intentionally creating a space for you to do your own work so you can attract into your life the kind of partner that you really want. I think that's powerful.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And he mentioned, you mentioned that you're like, am I just shooting myself in the foot for doing this? No, you would be shooting yourself in the foot if you kept continuing on with your patterns from before. Taking a break, whether that's like full celibacy or just taking a break from dating or however that looks, is really the only way to change your patterns and to have a different relationship with your sexuality and with other people. And something that you were saying, Soma, about this is so much more than just about sex. Truly, truly, our sexuality is foundational for how we relate to other people, of course potential partners, but also like our purpose in the world, business, the way we make money, the way that we feel about ourselves is so connected to our sexuality and how sexual energy is flowing through us, that healing your relationship to your sexuality really, really can help heal your mind and heal any kind of negative patterns that you have going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and you know, my one of my teachers used to look at our purpose sort of being a metaphor for our fuck, like what how we're here to fuck the world in a way, and it's there is a there's an energy of purpose that has that kind of primal potency to it, and it's valuable to be able to connect with that without the shame that's often tied to it, and it doesn't mean we're you know whipping our dick out in public. That's not what I'm talking about. It's just the energy of our fuck, and bringing that into the work that we're here to do, what we're here to build, what we're here to create. It's our creative life force. um, and again, when that's connected to your heart, it's channeled into your heart. uh, it's it's magnetic in a way. It actually helps you to manifest that which it is, that which you're here to create. um, yeah.
Hey,
So
I'm
yeah.
so sorry to interrupt. I gotta jump off the call. I just wanted to take a quick second to thank you, Miriam, for taking the time and sharing your wisdom. And Soma, just wanted to send you much love from the Samurai Brotherhood, man. Thanks
Oh,
for
awesome.
organizing.
Yeah. Thanks for jumping in, man.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
Even though you're working. Yeah.
All right,
And you'll be getting a recording so you can kind of listen to the rest of this.
perfect.
Yeah. Awesome,
All
man.
right,
Thanks for the
blessings, everybody.
question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Mhm. Um, I think Bayron just put a question in the chat. How a men's support group in the area of Me Too can be supportive to each other. No, it looks like Miriam, you answered that privately to me, but no, we haven't touched on that, and I think it's good. Hey, Bayron, I don't know if you're available to jump on and kind of voice that out loud, but would love
Yeah,
to hear from you.
I am. So I jumped in this looking at I seen Miriam before, and I I was attracted to the work that she was promoting and talking here. And what attracted me the most is that we're doing this in a men's group setting. So the question is, how is it in a men's group we can support each other? Because I see the sisters and the women doing a lot of support for themselves, but I do not see a lot of men's groups or even men's groups that I will feel comfortable in, where it's less heady and is real support and vulnerability and being able to talk with each other for each
Hmm.
other.
Yeah. Yeah, I love you voicing that, and I'll speak to that because I I do a lot of men's groups. I've been doing them for many years, and um, I think there's a broad spectrum of things that we can cover in men's work, and this is definitely a topic that we need to be able to speak to, and we do in certain domains of men's work, and I agree that men need safe spaces to be able to voice all of the kind of shadows of our sexuality that we often are, it's not safe in the world to just talk about a lot of these things. In particular, the things within us men that can be more edgy, the parts of us that want to dominate, that want to, that are kind of working through this conditioning of using our sex as a force, and just how culturally we've been conditioned on some level to treat sex as a conquest, like we're here to take. And there's both, I would say it's more than just cultural condition. There's a biological drive in us that's a powerful force, and we need to, I think part of our initiation as men is learning how to work with that, the power of that force, so it's not running us, right? And I think that's one thing that's largely absent from our modern culture. We all know how sex works, but I mean, I just saw a Facebook post today of a woman that posted like how many women out there have received a dick pic from a man. And I looked at this post early in the day, and there was probably a good 20-30 women that had raised their hand on that. So and that's, to me, is a sign that men just don't know how to handle that drive, that sexual energy. And
I'm sorry to interrupt, and I understand where you're coming from. That's
yeah.
not what my question is, though. My question is more about to do with men's groups being able to support each other in vulnerable spaces.
Okay. Yeah. So the reason I'm bringing it there, because we're speaking to sexuality, and for men, this is a topic that's vulnerable, and obviously there's a lot of other areas we can touch on our vulnerability, and we do that in men's work. We're there to touch on the places where we feel ashamed, the places where we don't feel safe to express ourselves in the world. We touch on, vulnerability can encompass so many different things. It can encompass a man stepping into his power more fully, asking for what he wants, setting a boundary. All these things are vulnerable. And in men's work, we can train each other to be able to bring that level of vulnerability out into the world, so that we're showing up more authentically rather than wearing the masks that many of us typically wear. Does that make sense, Baron? I'm not sure if I totally responded, but I'm just kind of trying to speak to the range of what can occur in a men's group.
I I do appreciate your response.
Yeah.
No, but it may seem like more of a private question. Then I'm not sure how you're responding, but it's okay. I won't drag this.
No, we could get into it. I want to address it. So what do you, can you be more specific? Like what are you actually asking?
What I'm asking for is that from a provider's perspective versus
Yeah.
I've noticed that groups that are led by men are usually more mind led versus even the provider themselves or the leader being vulnerable and sharing the story and opening the space.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. I hear that. And I think um, there's all different types of men's groups. Some of them are more oriented towards learning skills. And then there's certain groups that specifically are about revealing more of ourselves in a vulnerable way. And I agree that I think leadership, good leadership, comes from modeling that, bringing that, sharing those parts of ourselves. And I think that happens in some men's groups and it doesn't in others. And I think it's just a matter of finding the groups that resonate and bring that. And I think it's worth dropping in on some and exploring if it's something you're curious about, because I absolutely know that there's a lot of great men's work out there where men are exploring these deeper parts of themselves openly and in a vulnerable way. Yeah,
I
hopefully
appreciate
that.
your
Yeah, yeah, and Bayron, I would encourage you to come check out the Essential Man Tribe. I know you're just a guest here, but we have a membership group that you can check out for a couple of weeks for free, and currently it's not run as a men's group per se, but it's a space where men are practicing. Robert's a member there. Men are leaning into that edge of being vulnerable, sharing their process openly, and learning to express themselves in new ways together. Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I don't know if you have any more to add to that, Miriam. I imagine it's not necessarily where you're coming from, but yeah.
I mean, I know that he mentioned I see in the chat box, it says specifically in the era of Me Too, how can men be supportive of each other? And I think there's a lot of value there of men understanding how to not shame each other and instead talk to each other about their sex drive, and then how that's received by women, and then how to support each other in the shame that might come from um maybe an experience of being too forward, or the regret that might come from feeling like, oh no, did I do something wrong? Did I say the wrong thing? Was I too forceful? I obviously am not a man, but I can only imagine how many layers there are to unpack around men being taught that their sexuality, there's something inherently wrong with their sexuality, and then how to feel safe, how to connect to themselves and their sexuality as a safe being, honestly, how to feel honestly like I am trustworthy, I am safe, when there's so many women coming out saying that men aren't safe, and they don't feel safe with men. And I don't know, there's a lot of deep psychological wounding that both men and women have experienced. And I think right now is a really important time where people are telling their stories, and that's what men's work is for. That's what women's work is for. That's what this work is for. So
Yeah, yeah, and I agree. I think there's so much to look at there, and I think there's hopefully a time and place where we can come together at some point, men and women, and be able to share our experiences and perspectives in that same level, with that same level of vulnerability, because there's a lot of misunderstanding, I believe, in what we're carrying individually, and to really have a forum where we can hear one another, and just all of the baggage that we carry from both sides, so that there's a place where we can meet in the middle that is healing and loving.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we don't have a big audience on this call, but I'm gonna call you forward, Robert, just because you're here, man, and just want to see if there's something you are curious about that you want to bring based on what we've been talking about.
Hi, Miriam, and hi, and Selma. Thank you. There's just so. I mean, I did a whole page of notes, so you probably can't see it, but it's a lot to dig into here. So I really thank both of you. It's the practice was pretty powerful. I've never done a tantra practice, or if that's a certain flavor, but it was really powerful. I feel the energies moving from the moving from my genitals through the heart. It's just pretty powerful. I've never really put that much focus on that channel of energy. And then you were saying that tantra also gets into the primal power, which we kind of exploring a little more because of Wim Hof. I got into Wim Hof a couple months ago, and his flavor of spirituality, he said tapped into the primal power. So it just opened my eyes to tantra. So thank you for that. But I mean, I have been like Jonas. I've been kind of laying back from relationships since my last major relationship, long term relationship, and that was like a decade ago. And after that dissolved, since then I've been dating here and there, but my heart hasn't been full. I've been more of a self discovery path, and that relationship opened up a lot of. But we called it yim yam, where we sat like you were saying you did in your workshop, and we'd sit like that. And that was so profound for both of us. It was just we started exploring those energies. Um, so I'm not. I mean, open up through the heart. It's just. I guess. I guess a question. I don't know if there is a question right this second.
Yeah,
It's
it's
kind of
okay.
trying to take this in the embodiment conference too. Am I going out? Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, we can hear you. Yeah, you're here with
Oh,
us. Yeah.
okay. No, it's just this whole pandemic and being locked down and isolated, and I can't go to art openings and the social life. It's really this year's been pretty intense. And then
Yeah.
Soma, you brought me into the embodiment conference, and I've just gravitated to relationships and section.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Sounds like you're kind of
could you hear me?
feeling. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear us? Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can. My internet
Okay.
comes and goes,
Okay.
but it's solid now. Uh, uh, it's just so much to explore. The thing is, it's kind of overwhelming. Just like digging into this. There's just so much to learn in this life. It's just kind of overwhelming. Uh,
Yeah, I hear that. And I want to,
uh,
Robert, I don't know if you can hear me, but in terms of that overwhelm,
I could hear you.
um, obviously there's so many rabbit holes you can dive into in regards to embodiment. And in my opinion, it's great to just start really simple. It's like you can go super deep with one practice if you commit to it. Whether it's Wim Hof or that thing that Miriam led. And I think that's part of the problem. I mean, I think the embodiment conference is great, but it's got like 1,000 speakers, right? So um, you know, it we can we can become these information consumers in this world, and kind of get lost and lose that capacity to focus because we're just trying to like take in so much, and it does become overwhelming from that place. And um, I would encourage you to kind of trust what's in front of you, and try to work with that, and just start really simply, because you can go very far from uh, one little practice. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's Well, what Miriam said just hit home that, I mean, to me, the bottom line is what is alive is a connection. You know, it's, it's all about the connection, you know, and in the past, I connected with probably not the wisest relationships. You know, I was pulled into some of that, and but I'm getting wiser. I've gotten wiser, and you know, I'm working with boundaries. You know, and
Hmm.
but you know, it it is. I wish I was more focused into what is alive is connection. You know, 2 decades ago. You know, but that's my path. You know, and I feel it when I feel it in these subtle energies. When you sit with someone in your lap and you're just eye gazing, it's just like you were saying, someone. It's just like, or I could imagine your workshop, your tantra workshops on Sundays. Those energies are just, it's so alive. It's just so alive. But especially this year, it's just so hard to explore these energies. You know,
Yeah.
and
No,
you know, and he said,
I hear
go
that.
ahead.
Yeah, and I think that's something to look at. You know, we are in this very isolated time, and um, you know, I got to start to wrap up here. But one of the gifts of having a group of men that are available to you is you can actually create connection there and train yourself to build deep connections with other men. And that's why, like I was saying to Bayron, like practicing vulnerability with other men will make it easier to bring it to a woman and to create that depth of experience and connection. So I would encourage you to take advantage of the tribe and the men that are available for that, because we can carry each other deep together. Um, yeah. I know Miriam's got to wrap up pretty soon, so um, thank you for that, for bringing that, Robert. Appreciate that, man. And
Or
yeah, so Miriam, do you have any last words that you want to close with? You want to leave the viewers, the men that are on this call?
Mm. I just feel grateful to be able to share with the group of men doing the work. I know for myself, I had to heal my relationship to men and my idea of what masculine was. I had to really heal that. And so coming to the place where I'm at now, where my heart is so open to men who are really about their healing, like, and how beautiful that is. It's just, it's something that fuels actually my work with women. It fuels my desire to go deeper with women, because I'm like, there's amazing men out there that are doing the work. And a lot of women have this idea that, you know, we're all the good men. And I know that's not true. We're all just, you know, in our process of waking up and finding what's really important to us. And the more we let ourselves surrender to our own healing, the more that what's meant for us is going to come, the relationship that's meant for us, the work that's meant for us, etc. um so yeah, this sexuality work is about so much more than sex. It's about our relationship to ourselves and our ability to express ourselves through our bodies, through our hearts, through our the way we think, the way we create our creative energy. And it is our primal power, and having that connection, that relationship to our primal power is, it's our life force, it's our vitality, it's the thing that makes you want to get out of bed in the morning, literally, whether or not there's an idea attached to that or not. It's that inspiration for life. And when we lose that is when we start to deteriorate, right? So this energy, this wakeful energy can keep us youthful longer and can keep us um, even wanting to heal, even wanting to evolve takes energy. And so I want people to recognize how much dormant energy there is inside of your sexuality. and how it's your choice how you want to use that. If you want to use that for the problem that's been an issue for your whole life and you can't get over it, that's a really good way to use that excess sexual energy. And learning how to work with yourself like that, where you're kind of a master of your own primal body and you're able to say what this energy goes for instead of just being overrun by your instinctual sexual energy. That's a really good approach to any path, whether it's tantra or any sacred sexuality path, learning to have this new relationship with your body in that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great place to end.
Yeah.
Is there any place that you want to direct men that are here or watching the recording of this video in terms of finding out more about you and your work?
Sure. Yeah. Like I said, I do work with some men. I work with men who are really willing to do the work and not men who think of Tantra as something that I don't do, just to put it lightly.
Which
Um,
is just, it's what I'm guessing is it's not like it's non-sexual in
right.
terms of the intimacy with
I
you
am not
with
offering sexual services through the
yeah.
tantra work, but
Okay.
if a man is interested in connecting to his own sexuality, his own body, and his ability to connect with himself and a partner better in a more deep way, I'm definitely open to helping with that. I've helped men with porn addiction and things like that, helping change a porn habit to conscious self-pleasure exercise can be really beneficial. So I have a Facebook group called Pleasure as Medicine. Um, I also have an Instagram account, Pleasure as Medicine. If you want to send me a direct personal email, you can send an email to pleasureasmedicine@gmail.com. And other than that, I'm actually offering Tantra yoga immersions and teacher trainings where we're training people to develop a personal practice and carry this energy forward in a way that transforms them from the inside out. So that's kind of next level stuff, but some people are more ready for it than they might think. So yeah, if anybody has any questions about what it looks like to work with me, you can just send me an email at pleasureasmedicine@gmail.com. Probably the easiest way.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll be sharing the emails from men that signed up for this class, so you'll have access to whatever she's putting out there and offering as well. So thank you so much, Miriam. Really a pleasure to have you here. And I know the men viewing and the men listening to the recording are going to really appreciate your wisdom and what you're bringing. And thank you for your medicine and your heart and what you're doing for men in the world.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for trusting me to share with your group. That means a lot to me, and I really appreciate all that you bring as well. Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure. All right. Have a great night, everybody, wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you next time. Bye.